Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's tutorial is going to be split into two videos. I'm going to show you how to make contouring and highlighting that much more natural for an evening look. So it's still like a full-on highlight and contour, but so that it's a lot softer to look at. And then the second look is just going to kind of be a nude makeup look. I should get my hair out of the way. Using the new Huda Beauty nude palettes. And also the nude lip glosses from Anastasia Beverly Hills. So today's tutorial will be all about the face, and I will just film with the eyeshadow already done at the end, and then next week will be the eye makeup tutorial. So I'm going to start with my MURAD Oil and Pore Control Primer. This is a mattifying primer, and this one contains SPF 45. It's one of my absolute favourites for keeping your skin matte the entire day. So this just goes on to the T-section of the face. If you're not oily and you're more dry, you can use something that's a little bit more hydrating, moisturiser, or you can use something like a hyaluronic acid serum. The hyaluronic acid serums, if you're not familiar with them, they kind of can draw in moisture from the air and sort of retain up to like 1,000 times its weight in water, so it's really good at hydrating your skin. Now, primers aren't necessary. It really depends on your skin and what you want to achieve. One question I get a lot is about pores and how to minimise them. Now, it's really difficult with pores because you can use primers to kind of fill them, but sometimes you will find that certain foundations just don't want to sit over primers. I do have a tutorial on how to prevent your foundation from slipping off your nose or breaking down on your face. But bear in mind, this is just a guide. It's a really good way to kind of look at your first steps on how to prevent your foundation from moving. Lint in the air. However, it doesn't guarantee that that's the only reason your foundation won't break down throughout the day. If you are oily, that can break it down. Sometimes it can be the primer itself. It's just kind of all trial and error. But go check that out and make sure that you are using the right foundation with the right primer. Now, in terms of pores, unfortunately, the size of the pore cannot be shrunk by makeup. It's just not going to work. You can use skincare geared towards helping pores, but to be honest with you, your skin is your skin. It's not going to change with a topical cream. Skin can look a bit firmer, but pores are pores. So really and truly, it's all about finding balance with yourself and accepting that that is your skin, and you can only work out the best kind of products that work for you. Everybody's an individual. So I'm going to put on a pore minimizing primer today just through this area, because this area on me is a little bit like orange peel. That's where my skin has little tiny little pockets as such. They're not massive, they don't bother me too much. But this will just help the foundation look a bit smoother. However, I am fully aware that this is not a miracle and it's not going to completely eradicate skin texture. And I don't want it to. I want my skin to look like skin. And then on the other side, we've got those of you that are drier. You might want a hydrating primer, something that's more illuminating. You could use something like the Beauty Blender Opal Essence Serum Primer. This has a bit of an iridescent finish to it, so underneath your foundation, it will just kind of catch the light and make your skin look a bit more healthy. So I'm going to use the Beauty Blender Pore Minimizer Primer just through this part of my face. And it's a light to medium colour, so it goes onto the skin and you can't see it. The thicker the makeup, the less visible they'll be, but the more visible the makeup will be. It's about balance and realising that they're not going to completely disappear. That is my eye makeup complete. Now this will be for evening makeup, so it is still full on, but it's to make it look a little bit more natural. It's a little bit more wearable, so you still get kind of a highlight under the eyes. It still looks really flawless, but without looking like it's super caked on. Because we want this to be full coverage, I'm going to go in with the Too Faced Born This Way Multi-Use Sculpting Concealer. I really like how this sits on the skin. I'm going to take some of this underneath the eyes. And this is the lighter shade. I don't want to go super light because it almost becomes hard to blend in. I'm also going to take it around here. Anywhere that you want the areas to kind of be concealed but also pulled forward. So I'm going to take that on the chin, a little bit down the centre of the nose, and then obviously the forehead. I'm going to use my Real Techniques buffing brush. It's so old school. It's an oldie but a goodie. So I'm going to use that to stipple over the top just to buff that into the skin. And you will feel that you look weird to begin with, but The idea of the highlight in these areas is that it lifts the face upwards. It just gives that appearance. So I've used a stipple motion to bounce that onto the skin. Even though this colour is lighter than my face, it still has a nice gradient. It's blended well, so it looks a little bit more natural. I'm also taking that slightly onto the sides of the nose. This is going to help with the coverage. And it also helps to make the nose look slightly smaller. You'd think that putting something light on it's going to make it look bigger because it bounces light, but once you put some contour down the sides, it just makes it look a bit smaller. Such a good concealer. It really does cover everything. And because I've moisturised my skin beforehand, it doesn't look dry, it sits really well. I'm going to take a smaller brush just to very softly buff that concealer into the eyeshadow underneath the eyes so there isn't a seam between the two. If you lose any of your eyeshadow, you can go back in with a small amount on your brush just to put it back in, but make sure you tap all the excess off your brush first because you don't want any fall down. Do the same up on the forehead. I've seen a lot of comments under my videos about the way I say forehead. It is forehead, but it's just my accent. I'm sure there are other people from Essex that pronounce it forehead. I know it sounds funny, it's just the way I pronounce it. So just buff the rest backwards because we're going to go with a slightly darker colour. Or a lot darker. Don't forget, I have a natural tan, and I keep my face out the sun, so this always looks paler, so I have to darken my skin to match my body. So if anyone goes in with a darker colour, only do it if it's going to match your body. I'm going to use a sponge to bounce the bit on the top of the nose because I don't want to move it too much. I just want to bounce it in. If my eyes go red, it's because I keep sneezing. So I actually received this Pro Glow palette from Tarte, and it has a cream product in there for sculpting. So I think I'm just going to quickly give that a go and see what it's like. The brush I'm going to use is the 117 Petite Defined Buffer Brush by Zoeva. I'm going to put this onto the hollows of the cheeks. This is a nice cool shade, so I don't want to bring this down too far, but I just want it to sculpt the cheekbones. That's probably a little bit too far. Also going to take that down the sides of the nose, just to add a little bit of shape. And around my forehead. Makes me feel like a clown. Only do this to your forehead if your forehead has enough space to kind of contour. The idea is to make it just look a little bit more rounded here rather than it sort of being all the way up and then meeting your hairline. If it looks more slightly rounded, then this bit looks smaller. That's the idea. So when you blend the contouring down the sides of your nose, you want to keep a tissue handy so you can wipe the excess product off of the bristles, and then you can just softly buff over the top. So you're keeping it in place, but you're buffing it in. If you end up with too much product on here, it's going to end up a mess on here. So we want to keep it where it is, but use the bristles that are clean to soften it. Now don't worry if it looks harsh at the beginning. The trick is in the next section. I'm just going to stipple this in a little bit. You can go in with your fingers and tap that in. It doesn't matter about using your fingers at this stage because this isn't our base makeup, it's the foundation for our foundation. Just make sure there's no harsh edges where the colours meet. And take it up into your hairline. I'm going to go in with a tiny amount of this because it's a little bit warmer, and I'm going to add that a little bit higher just above where the contour is. Contour goes in here and a bronzer would go between, and then your blush would go here and then a highlighter at the top. So you kind of just want it in those areas that are going to be a bit warmer. Just going to add a little bit around here as well. And again, just stipple it on. This is a great way to prevent your makeup ending up looking patchy as the night goes on. You know, when you go into a bathroom, you know, you're in a club or you're at an event and you get into the bathroom later on and you think, oh, I definitely didn't leave the house looking like that. I can see skin coming through or look patchy and just worn. If you've got this as a base and then you've got bronzer and stuff on top, this is going to prevent that from shifting. Sandwiching is the way forward. So the foundation I'm going to use is the IT Cosmetics Your Skin But Better CC. This is a full coverage cream foundation. The shade I've got is medium. So the brush I'm going to use is a duo fibre brush. This one is by NYX. And as you can see, the actual fibres themselves are shorter here and longer here, hence why they've got two different colours. And the bristles basically pick up less product and deposit less product on the skin. So I've just put some onto the back of my hand and I'm dusting off the excess. And then we're just going to stipple that onto the skin. You can use whatever foundation you want, but we're going to just buff this over the skin in a stipple motion. And all the highlight and contour is going to be underneath. So everything's going to end up looking softer, but it's still there. That's kind of the best way for you to wear full coverage makeup that doesn't look super intense. See here, you can see that we've still got a bit more of a contoured cheek, but it's softer. We've still got highlight under the eyes, but it's softer. We're going to do the same on the forehead, and I've only got a very small amount on my brush because we still want those areas to show through, but we want a tint over the top that softens it and that kind of more matches the skin and the body. Don't forget to also take that down onto your neck. You can take your dampen beauty blender. I tend to dampen it with the water and then use a towel to squeeze out all the excess moisture. So it really is just damp. And then you can press that over the skin just to give you a bit more of a flawless finish, because if there's any brushstroke marks, this will get rid of it. I'm going to use a tiny amount of the Vichy Demo Blend translucent setting powder. This is one of my favourites, especially if you're using full coverage makeup. I'm not going to powder the entire face. I'm just going to put a small amount underneath my eyes and a little bit here where I'm a bit shiny. Now you can press it into place, which is a really good way to lock it in. However, just for today, because I'm not going out anywhere special, but it is quite late in the day and I'm going to be taking it off in a few hours anyway, so I'm just going to use a brush to put it on. But if you want to lock it in, you can use a sponge. So this just mattifies the areas that you want to be less shiny. So now we've got a more natural sculpt going on. I'm going to add a very small amount of the Bare Minerals Faux Tan Endless Summer Bronzer, and the brush I'm using is the Zoeva 132 Luxe Powder Finish brush. And this is just going to warm up, adding a little bit of bronzer to this part of the cheek. We've already got contour here, which we don't need to apply any more to, but it's more this section. I'm also going to add a very small amount around my hairline. For blush, I'm going to use this Bounce and Blur Coral Cloud colour by Bare Minerals. This is a really soft texture. Normally you would put some with your fingers, but because I kind of don't want to disturb my base, I'm just going to tap it on with a brush. I'm going to use the Real Techniques sculpting brush. It's a nice soft synthetic one, so it's not going to clog the bristles. And I'm going to pop this on. If you smile, those are the apples of your cheeks. So I like to pop a little bit on and then pull it back. If your face starts to become muddy looking, it's because you're putting everything in the same place. When you do that, you kind of lose your definition. So you kind of need to know the areas. You can play with everything, but don't put a load of bronzer there, a load of blush there, your contour there, because it's all going to become one muddy mess. If you don't want to feel clown-like, you don't have to bring it too far forward. You can keep it higher on the cheek. But again, just be mindful of where you're placing everything. And that completes my tutorial on how to achieve full coverage, highlight and contour where it still looks relatively natural. This is one that I've done for years on clients when I always wanted it to be a lot more natural. So yeah, let me know what you thought in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the different processes for highlighting and contouring, and if you found this useful. All the products I've used will be listed and linked in the description bar. Please hit subscribe if you haven't already done so. Don't forget to hit the notification bell, because I think a mere 0.8% of you get notified when I upload. So it's a very small engagement considering we've finally hit the milestone of 500,000 followers, so thank you so much. To make sure most of you see my uploads, please hit the notification bell. If you've got any suggestions for uploads, please let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget you can follow me outside of YouTube on my social handles, which will be on screen for you now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.